So PlayStation held a state of play this time last week solely focused on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and there was a hell of a lot of information to unpack in that state of play, as well as a whole ass demo that launched at the end of it too. So today I wanted to go through and break down every single thing we learned about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at the state of play. Now, like I said, the first thing to be excited about, I'm sure most of you guys do know, but for those who don't, the Rebirth demo is now live and you can play it completely free on the PS5. It's around a 2-hour demo, and the great part is the progress actually carries over to the main game too, so you will just get to start off where you finished the demo rather than needing to redo the opening 2 hours again. On top of that, the demo is getting an update before launch to add even more to it. I'm recording this a couple of days in advance, so as of right now, we don't know when that update is coming. I'd wager it probably is this week though, and it may even be live right now, so keep your eyes peeled for that too. Now, in terms of the state of play, one of the first things we learned is that story progression doesn't affect your side missions. Now, in the remake back in 2020, you actually couldn't go back and do certain side content. You had to pretty much do it as you were progressing through the story. Once you would get through the next chapter, then you couldn't actually go back and finish that side content. But they have confirmed in Rebirth, you can pretty much just send it on the main story, and then you can still have all of the side content to come back to once you have finished the main story, or just at any point throughout that main story. That is obviously a big win for anyone who is into doing the side content, because obviously if you have to do it as you are progressing the main story, that can be a little bit of a turn off. And obviously if anyone wants to just finish the story without spoiling stuff, then that is a big owl for those who can't go back and redo the side content. So that is definitely a very welcome addition, and it is one of the things that they're kind of changing from, at least what I'm aware of, the original Final Fantasy VII, because I believe they had it that way on purpose in the remake, but they've obviously heard people's feedback and they have now changed that for Rebirth. Now, they did also confirm in the state of play, which is also visible in the demo if you guys have played it, there is a performance mode which will allow you to reach 60 frames a second, or there is then the graphics mode which is in 4K, but they didn't actually touch on the frames per second. So I don't know if it's going to be locked to 30 FPS 4K, or if it is going to be like a variable refresh rate kind of situation where it's just kind of fluctuating and giving you the best FPS it can give you. They didn't really confirm that, and I haven't tested it myself, so we're just going to have to wait and see for people like Digital Foundry, for example, who generally look into that kind of thing. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth content on the way, both in the lead up to launch as well as after launch, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, one of the biggest statements they made in the whole state of play was that they said, quote, "Once you finish Rebirth, I'm sure you'll agree that no other game makes you feel quite this close to its characters." Now, that is a massive, massive statement, and personally, I don't really care how good Final Fantasy VII is. I don't think that will be the case for me. I think there are so many games out there, The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, that just have such amazing stories and make me feel so connected and close to those characters. So that is definitely a very, very big statement. But with that being said, it shows they are very clearly believing in the game if they're going to say something that big. And from what I've heard, everyone who's played the PS1 original, they do say that it is an absolutely amazing story. So that one is definitely a little bit subjective, but I thought that was very interesting that I've never really heard any game dev or anything say something of that magnitude, because that is a very, very big thing to say when there are so many other amazing games out there too. Now, anyone who's played Final Fantasy will know that a huge part of the Final Fantasy games is the soundtrack. It has one of the most, I guess, memorable and famous soundtracks out there across all of the different games. And something about the soundtrack in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that they confirmed is that they've made over 400 new songs for this game. And having played the demo, I can confirm the soundtrack is amazing as expected. Now, it's not necessarily 400 completely new songs. How they've done it is that there's often kind of the same theme. So there'll be like the Tifa theme, for example, and her theme will have multiple different variations of it. So you'll kind of hear that same theme, but it will be very different each time. And it's not like they're just very minor changes. They are very noticeably different. And so far from the demo, they all seem really, really good. So I'm sure people were already expecting to have a really, really solid soundtrack in this game. But to be honest, I think this could be potentially better than people actually expected it to be, which is pretty insane considering, like I said, that is probably one of the most talked about parts of Final Fantasy, is how good the soundtracks are. Now, something else very exciting that they confirmed is that there is also a new character relationship system that, as far as I know, wasn't in the original or in the remake. Now, part of this actually includes romance, but they also said that your party's bonds aren't just reflected in the story, but throughout the gameplay as well. The choices you make throughout your journey will change the way your friends feel towards Cloud. This means that depending on how you actually answer questions, for example, if someone's talking to you and they ask a question, if you answer it in, I guess, more of a negative way, they may feel less friendly towards you. It's not like I believe they're going to get to the point where all of your party hates you or anything like that, but you can essentially strengthen the relationships more than just how the game kind of sets it out to be from the start. And that also plays into the next point that I'll get into as well, where it is going to be very important to try and, I guess, have the strongest relationships that you can with all of your party, because that is going to actually affect the gameplay. Not only is it going to affect the way that they feel towards you, but that will then in turn affect how strong you are as a team. This comes in the form of what they've confirmed as a folio skill tree, which skill points can actually be earned for by strengthening those relationships that I just talked about, meaning that you and your party all kind of get stronger the closer that you are. If you're not close enough with your party, you're not going to be earning as many skill points, whereas if you have really good relationships with all of the party members, you're going to earn more skill points, and those skill points are not necessarily used for something that is an individual skill. All of those folio skills seem to be stuff that is kind of helping you as a team rather than, Cloud as an individual, for example. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that plays out, and it is a pretty deep character relationship system. We've obviously seen that in other games before, but I've never really seen it to this extent where it is actually affecting gameplay, in the fact that if you're, really, really close with all of your party members, you're going to actually be stronger as a team. That is a really cool touch, and it's going to kind of make everyone's playtime a little bit different depending on how you interact with each of your party members. Now, something that is kind of in the same vein, is not quite to do with the folio skill tree, but it is to do with your teammates. This is the synergy skills that are also a new tool that allow you to do kind of like duo combos with other party members, almost like a double team finishing move, I guess. We do see this in the actual demo. I'm not going to go into any spoilers because it is pretty important at the start of that demo, but if you guys have played the demo, I'm sure you will have actually experienced this as a part of the gameplay. It introduces it very early on, and some of these are really, really cool, and it's going to be very exciting to see the fact that it's not just between you and one other character. You can have this for any possible character pairing, so it's not just, for example, for Cloud and Barret. It could be for Barret and Tifa as well, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff there. We've seen some of it throughout the gameplay that has been released, of these really big, cool, like finishing moves, not even necessarily just finishes, so you can do this and it doesn't actually kill the enemy. But yeah, they are these big kind of like huge damage dealing team combo moves that, from my experience in the demo, seem very, very enjoyable, and I cannot wait to see how many we can unlock and just how powerful they can become as we get through the game. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for all of the new exciting stuff that we learned at the State of Play last week. Like I said, go play the demo if you guys haven't already, and keep your eyes peeled on the channel for more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth content in the lead up to launch, and obviously after launch as well. With that being said though, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.